Welcome to Little Cutie Story Channel. Today we are reading Rapunzel. Like and subscribe and turn on the notifications. Enjoy!
Rapunzel. Once upon a time, there was a man and his wife, and they longed and longed to have a child, but all in vain. Then, at last, the woman began to hope that the good Lord might indeed grant their wishes. Now these people had a little window at the back of the house, and through it you could see into a marvelous garden, all full of the most beautiful plants and flowers. But this garden was set about with a great high wall, and nobody dared to go in, because it belonged to a sorceress who was possessed with great powers and feared by everyone. One day the woman stood at this little window and looked down into the garden, where she happened to see a flower bed given over the most beautiful Rapunzel plants, and they seemed so fresh and green that her mouth watered, and she was filled with a great desire to eat them. But this desire grew fiercer day by day, and since she knew that there was no way for her to come by the Rapunzels, she fell into a decline, turning pale and miserable. Well, her husband was frightened by this and asked her what it was that she was spinning for, and she answered, "Ah, if I don't get any of those Rapunzel flowers growing in the garden out the back, then I shall die." So the man, who loved her very much, said to himself, "Hey then, better to fetch Rapunzels than let your wife go to a grave and hang the cost." And in the evening twilight he climbed up over the wall into the garden with the sorceress, grabbed a handful of Rapunzel plants as quick as he could, and brought them to his wife. Straight away she made up Rapunzel salad for herself and swallowed it down with great gulps. This salad had tasted so very, very good that the next day her longing was 3 times as great. If she was ever to be at peace, then her man must once climb over into the garden. So once more he went down in the evening twilight, but when he'd climbed down from the wall he was terrified to find the sorceress standing in front of him. "How can you dare," she said, her eyes flashing with rage, "to climb into my garden like a common thief and steal my Rapunzels? This shall be the worse for you." "Aye," he answered, "you're right. What you say is true, but please have mercy. I've been driven to what I've done because I needed to. My wife saw your Rapunzels out of the window and felt so great a longing for them that she would have died if she hadn't had some to eat." Then the sorceress cooled her anger and said to him, "Very well, if things are as you say they are, then I shall let you take away as much Rapunzel plants as you wish. But I make one condition. You must eat the child that your wife will bring into the world. All will go well with it. I shall care for it like a mother." In his anguish, the man agreed to everything, and when the woman's baby was born, the sorceress immediately appeared, named the child Rapunzel, and took it away with her. Rapunzel was the most beautiful child in all the world. When she was 12 years old, the sorceress shut her up in a tower that lay deep in a forest and had neither door nor stairway, but only a little window at the top. And whenever the sorceress wanted to come in, she would stand below and call out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair to me." For Rapunzel had long, beautiful hair, as fine as spun gold, and when she heard the voice of the sorceress, she would loosen her tresses, wrap them round the window hook, and then let her hair fall to the ground 20 yards below, and the sorceress would climb up it. Now it so happened that after a couple of years, a king's son was riding through the forest and came past the tower. There he heard a song that was so lovely that he stood stock still and listened. It was Rapunzel, who in her loneliness passed her time singing with the sweetest voice you've ever heard. This prince wanted to go up to her and looked for a door to the tower, but none was to be found. So he rode home, But his heart had been so touched by the song that he went out to the wood every day and listened. Then, once, as he stood behind a tree, he saw that a sorceress came by, and he heard how she called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Then Rapunzel let down her tresses, and the sorceress climbed up to her. "Well, if that's the ladder that you have to climb," said the prince to himself, "then I'll try my luck too." And then next day, when it began to get dark, he went to the tower and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." And straight away the hair came tumbling down, and the king's son made his way up. To begin with, Rapunzel was terribly afraid to see a man come in through the window. He'd never seen such a thing before, but the young prince began to talk to her very friendly, and told her that her singing so touched his heart that it gave him no peace, and he had to see the singer herself. So Rapunzel lost her fear, and when he asked her if she would have him for her husband, and she saw that he was young and handsome, she thought to herself, "He'll be kinder to me than that old godmother." So she said yes, and laid her hand on his hand. Then she said, "I would like to go with you, but I don't know how I can get down. Every time you come to see me, bring a thread of silk, and I'll weave a ladder from them. And when it's ready, then I'll climb down, and you can carry me away on your horse." They agreed that, till then, he should come to her every evening, since the old woman came in the daytime. And the sorceress noticed nothing of this till one day said to her, "Tell me, little godmother, why is it that you're so much more overweight climbing up than that young prince? He's up here in a moment." "Ah, you godless creature," cried the sorceress. "What this I hear you say? Here am I, thinking I've parted you from all the world, and you've betrayed me." And in anger, she grasped Rapunzel's beautiful hair, twisted it round her left hand a couple of times, seized the scissors with her right, and rich it was all cut off, and the lovely tresses lay on the ground. And so unmerciful was she that, by her powers, she brought Rapunzel into a wasteland, where she had to live in a sorrow and misery. In the evening of the selfsame day that she had cast out Rapunzel, the sorceress fastened the shorn hair up to the window hook. And when the prince came and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair," she let down the hair. The prince climbed up, but when he got to the top, he found not his dearest Rapunzel, but the sorceress, who regarded him with looks of poisonous evil. "Aha!" she mocked. "You're after fetching darling madame, are you? Well, the pretty bird isn't sitting on the nest anymore, isn't singing anymore. The cat's got her, and will have your eyes out too. Rapunzel lost to you, and you won't see her again." The prince went out of his mind with grief, and in his despair he jumped down from the tower. He got away with his life, but the thorn bushes that he fell into scratched both his eyes, and so he wandered blindly through the forest, eating nothing but roots and berries, and doing nothing but weep and lament over the loss of his darling wife. And this way he roved the misery for some years, until eventually he came to the Eastland, where Rapunzel lived in great distress, with a pair of twins who had been born to her, a little boy and a little girl. The princess heard her voice, and it sounded so familiar to him that he made towards it. And when he came up to her, Rapunzel recognized him, put her arms round his neck, and wept. It so happened, though, that two of her tears fell upon his eyes, and they became clear again, and he could see as well as ever before. So he carried Rapunzel into his own kingdom, where he was received with great joy, and the two of them lived happily ever after.